Hey guys, you may have noticed that I rebranded my channel. I am now officially Mutualist Musings. I obviously titled my last couple of videos Mutualist Musings episodes 1 and 2, and I thought that was such a catchy title and a little less bulky than the left side of liberty, especially the left side of liberty 2.0. That's a real mouthful. So I thought, you know what? I'm just going to call it Mutualist Musings. Just call the whole channel Mutualist Musings. So that's what you get right now, because that's, roughly speaking, as I've said before, roughly speaking, that's where I fit in ideologically. I have some differences, like I've said, but roughly speaking, I am, for all intents and purposes, a mutualist. Because I do believe in the principles of mutual aid and market anarchism and market socialism and things like that. So, anyway, I wanted to talk today about something that I've been hesitant to talk about because I usually don't talk about individual political stories. I'm more into talking about general theory and concepts about politics and economics. But I had to talk about this because it ties into a broader discussion about politics and economics and theories. So let's dive right into it. So I think it was last week, there was the now infamous interview with Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. Now, I didn't give a shit about this interview at all. I just watched it because my family was watching it, and I mean, there was nothing else on, so I was half paying attention. I had other stuff I was doing, but I was, half listening, and I just didn't care because honestly, who cares about the British royal family? I mean, I guess Brits do, but why should we as Americans care about that? Even though Meghan Markle herself is an American, still, who cares? Honestly. It's like, didn't we fight a revolution in 1776 through 1783 to get away from all that shit? Didn't we fight a revolution to rid ourselves of all that? Why do we care about that? I mean, now, of course, Britain is one of our closest allies, and I get that, but is, a big monarchy issue, like issues with the monarchy, is that really anybody's business? Like, does anybody in America really care about that? Like, if you're invested in issues with the British monarchy as an American, you got to re-examine your priorities. I mean, come on. And okay, so the interview was with Oprah, and believe me, I have a lot of opinions. Some good, but mostly bad about Oprah. And yes, she was annoying and obnoxious and insufferable in the interview and asking very leading questions and whatever. But there's two things that I think people are being way too harsh on Meghan Markle for. Two things. Now, I don't care about, oh, Meghan was bullying people and she said it was really Kate, but it was really her and blah, 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 blah. I mean, if that did happen, I feel bad and whatever. And, if that indeed did happen, then it's sad and whatever. But I don't care about that tabloid bullshit. What I do believe, number one, is I do believe that Meghan Markle suffered from severe depression. And what conservatives are spinning this as is, oh, she's just a rich person, and what does she have to be depressed about, and blah, 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 blah. Guys, you don't understand how stressful it is being a part of the royal family. And honestly, I didn't even grasp the enormity of it. Now, I'm sure they dramatize it in this, but you have to watch The Crown. I'm serious. I haven't seen all of it, but I saw a couple of episodes in, I think, the second season, and then all of the last season, because I'm fascinated by the Thatcherite period in England, because I hate her guts, because she was terrible to the British working class, as she pretended to stand up for them. And, she was one of these people that, oh, God forbid we spend taxpayer money on bailing out the poor and giving them a safety net, but, oh, there's conflict in the Falklands with Argentina that could probably be solved diplomatically. Let's pay for a war, and oh, my poll numbers aren't that great. Yeah, let's pay for a war. That's great. Oh, there's banks that need to be bailed out. Yes, let's use taxpayer money to bail that out, to bail those institutions out. Oh, the British railroad system it is public and it's working fine. Oh, I'll just underfund it and then privatize it, because see the public transportation is terrible. See, I told you, you've got to privatize it. Oh, what's that? Private railroads are pieces of shit? Okay, I'll just bail them out. This is classic Thatcherite politics. This is what she did. This is factual. Now, they don't go into all that shit in the Crown. They only go over the Falklands stuff, because going over the other stuff would be too much because, again, production companies, film companies are corporations themselves, so they don't want to go too crazy on exposing the corruption between big business and governments. So that wasn't in the Crown, but the Falklands War was definitely a part of the Crown. But anyway, another part of the Crown was how awfully Princess Diana was treated. Now, a lot of that was Prince Charles's fault. But also, she just wasn't accepted by the family or the institution itself, and that made her life a living hell. She had eating disorders. She was just so bitter and resentful all the time and would get very angry, and she was miserable. And basically, Harry moved Meghan out of there, himself and Meghan out of there, because he didn't want history to repeat itself, where obviously Princess Diana eventually divorced Charles and then, got in that fatal car accident and died. And Harry, so he saw what happened to his mother, and he didn't want history to repeat itself. So, as somebody that has struggled with severe depression, granted, I've never been part of a monarchy, and a royal institution, but as somebody that has struggled with severe depression and anxiety, you should never, ever discount somebody's claims when they're talking about severe depression and anxiety and suffering from it. You should never invalidate that unless there's evidence that comes out that they're lying and they don't actually suffer from it. You don't want to do that. And that's exactly what conservative commentators like Tucker Carlson, Ben Shapiro, blah, 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 the usual suspects are doing. This is exactly what I've heard out of their mouths. You know, like, oh, she's just a rich girl complaining, oh, she's just being an actress and blah, 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 blah. Yes, she was an actress. Yes, she is. But you got to understand, man, actors and comedians, they're some of the most miserable people on the fucking planet. You know? I mean, these guys, it's insane. So don't pick on Meghan for that. Were some of her claims, like I said, were some of her claims in the interview probably embellished and a little bit nonsensical? Probably. But do I think everything she said was false? Like with Piers Morgan, like with Piers Morgan, oh, I don't believe a word she says, you know? It's like, Piers, shut up. That's bullshit. And, you know, he's just mad because she wouldn't let him get in her pants, basically. That's the story there. And he basically admitted it, you know? A couple years ago, he's like, yeah, you know, I was the one that introduced her to Harry, and I was the one that wanted her, basically. He admitted this. So, yeah, there's a real objective source of information. So, Meghan Markle, is she my favorite person? No. Is she, you know, does she strike me as the most honest person in the world? No. But at the same time, do I think we should totally discount and ignore and dismiss her claims of suffering from severe anxiety and depression while being in the monarchy, like a member of the royal family? No, absolutely not. And I also don't think we should discount the claims of racism within the royal family. Now, I don't think, because I think they even said, Harry and Meghan, it wasn't the Queen. They weren't talking about the Queen. They were talking about somebody else within the royal family, I think. And it was somebody within the institution as well. Just the institution itself is quite racist. And it makes sense because you got to understand the history with monarchies. Monarchies, historically, have been obsessed with purity and bloodlines. And if you have somebody that is, which is why, by the way, you had monarchies for generations that partook in incest and inbreeding to keep the bloodline absolutely pure. So it makes sense from a historical perspective that that the royal family would be freaking out, like, oh my God, we're going to have this mixed race baby that very well could be king one day, and you know, how do we deal with that? You know, it could be a crisis, you know, to them in their eyes. You know, to normal people, it wouldn't mean a goddamn thing, but to a royal institution, which obviously is all about tradition and whatever, it's a very big deal to them. So to me, it makes perfect sense, and I don't know why conservatives can't just come out and admit that, because again, Shapiro and Piers Morgan and Tucker and all these people are getting really triggered about that claim as well. Like, oh, you know, they get triggered anytime anybody brings up the possibility that anything might have a little bit of racism in it. It's like they never want to acknowledge that there's racism anywhere, you know? To them, all racism anywhere stopped when the United States passed the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act in 1964 and 65. You know, like that's when apparently all racism everywhere stopped, is when the United States passed the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act. You know, all of a sudden after that, whoop, no racism anywhere. Except, of course, then they simultaneously, at the same time, they also claim, well, no, actually, it's the leftists that are the real racists. So we have no racism, but at the same time, no, it's the leftists that are the real racists. But anyway, so it makes perfect sense that there would be some sort of racism within certain elements of the royal family and the institution of the monarchy in the UK. And I don't know why people can't just be honest about that there may be. I'm not even saying that there absolutely 100% is. I'm just saying it makes sense that there might be some sort of systemic bias or racism within that institution, just given the historic precedence of this obsession that royal families have with purity of bloodline. So, yeah, it makes sense to me. Anyway, also, one thing I heard Ben Shapiro in particular say today before I came on here was he was talking to the Daily Wire's newest recruit, Candace Owens, and he was saying, well, I don't know why the media is picking on conservatives for making a big deal out of this. I mean, it is kind of a big deal. I mean, it goes to what I said earlier about didn't we fight a war to get away from all this stuff? Like, honestly, these guys, it's funny because I've made this point before in some political groups on Facebook. It's funny how the conservatives of today claim to be in love with the founding fathers when 100%, these guys would be loyalists to the British Empire if we were back in the colonial revolutionary days. These guys 100% would be Tories. They would be loyalists to the crown. They would not be on the side of the so-called founding fathers. You know, they would be totally opposed to people like Washington, Jefferson, Thomas Paine, John Adams, James Madison. They would be opposed to all these people. And they would be loving King George III and kissing his ass, you know, because this is... Because it's funny. Candace Owens made some offhanded comment in this same interview with Ben Shapiro. She made a comment of, well, maybe we need some monarchy here in America to restore some, traditional values or whatever. And Ben Shapiro said, like, he did this awkward laugh where he was like, Candace was just kidding, guys. Conservatives don't believe in monarchy. That's a good one, Ben. That's a good one. Because, honestly, monarchy is the perfect encapsulation of right-wing politics. It goes all the way back to the origin of the term right-wing, both terms, right-wing and left-wing. I've told this story or whatever on this channel before, but just as a quick recap. The terms left and right in regard to politics were first used in the aftermath of the French Revolution. And you had the Estates General, which was the French equivalent of Parliament. And they were trying to figure out what to do with France in terms of, okay, what country is France going to become now? Because France was in chaos following the French Revolution. And they said, okay, we have two options. We can become a more democratic and egalitarian society, or we can go back to the way we were, which was a monarchic, more traditional society. And those who supported the monarchic traditional society sat on the left, and those who supported those who supported a monarchic traditional society sat on the right. I apologize. They sat on the right, generally speaking, and those delegates or whatever who supported a more egalitarian democratic society, generally speaking, sat on the left. So that's where we get the terms left and right. And so that's where leftism began to be associated more with democracy and freedom and egalitarianism, and right-wing politics became more associated with hierarchy and tradition and authority. So monarchy is the perfect encapsulation of right-wing politics. So it's kind of funny that Ben Shapiro said that. So I think on some level, he actually deep down knows that monarchy is actually perfectly emblematic of right-wing politics. In fact, when I was going to university, there was a kid. I actually wrote a lot of articles for a conservative publication. I was never really I never really wrote conservative articles for this publication. They would publish anybody, which is why I wrote for them. And basically, I just wrote for them because I knew they would let me trash Democrats. So that's basically what I did. But anyway, there was a kid that wrote for this magazine who unironically said, yeah, I support a return to monarchy. Yeah, I wouldn't mind that. So monarchy is right in alignment with right-wing politics. So don't let conservatives fool you. And this is a point I feel like I make in every video, but don't let them fool you with the small government stuff. Don't let them fool you with, oh, we believe in small government, blah, 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 blah. No, they don't. Whenever conservatives tell you, or what are called conservatives today, whenever a conservative or a right-winger tells you that they believe in small government, usually what that means is, we believe in taking away anything that helps working or poor people. That's what they mean by small government. So, especially when a politician, when a right-wing politician says, oh, I believe in small government and freedom. No. What they're saying is, I believe that we should take away anything that helps working and poor people, and that your boss has the freedom to take away all the fruits of your labor. That's what that means. So, and just real quick, conservatives like traditionalists, they don't really even believe in traditional values, because if they really were consistent in believing in traditional values, they would know that, because I think this was a point that Candace Owens brought up in her interview with Ben Shapiro. She said, the typical line of, leftists want to destroy Western civilization and, blah, 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 whatever that means. And she talked about the family and whatever. And what I'm thinking of, like the traditional family, I think she mentioned, and what I was thinking is, well, Candace, what we think of as the traditional family has only been around for, I don't know, the last 300 years, maybe. It hasn't been that long. Not really. I mean, kids were raised essentially by tribes and villages for centuries, for millennia. Like, this is how it was done. You brought up kids with the help of tribesmen, of villagers, of clansmen, not like KKK people. I'm talking, just clans, tribes, So that's how it was done. It's like, that's real traditionalism. That's going way back. When they bring up, the left wants to destroy the traditional family, it's like, well, how far back do you want to go? Because what Candace Owens is talking about is, the left wants to destroy what her version of the traditional family is, which is the mommy and the daddy and the two kids and the dog and the white picket fence and the suburban neighborhood, and the wife stays at home and takes care of the kids and maybe homeschools them, and the dad, goes to work at 9, comes to home at 5, and they come home and they have a nice lovely meal, and then they play for a little bit, and then they go to bed, and then rinse and repeat and all that kind of stuff. That's what Candace Owens is talking about, and it's like, nobody on the left has any interest in doing that. He has any interest in, like, destroying that. Like, that's such a bullshit talking point that I've heard a lot of conservatives spew, and I've never once heard anybody say, we want to destroy the nuclear family. Now, there was something kind of worded like that on the Black Lives Matter website, but I think what they were getting at was, I agree that wording wasn't the best, but I think what they were getting at, I think disrupt Western family structures was what they were talking about. I think what they were talking about in that specific instance was they want to help normalize other families that are not the traditional, again, the mommy and the daddy and the two kids and the white picket fence and the dog, and they want to help bring more acceptance to, hey, maybe there's, I don't know, a cis man and a trans woman who have, two adopted biracial kids. I don't know. And normalizing more families like that, not saying to, I don't think they meant to say we want to destroy the white picket fence and the, mommy and daddy and the, like that family, and then replace with the, the cis man and the trans woman and the biracial adopted kids, all over the place. That's not what they're saying. I don't think that was their intention at all. I agree, like I said, it could have been worded better. But the idea that it's this nefarious plot is just ridiculous. And I think they even removed that that statement from their website. And I'm actually glad that they did, because it can be misleading, and they probably saw some right-wing hack hit jobs on them where they're like, wow, this is being intentionally misinterpreted to be, this is being made out to be a lot more nefarious and sinister than we intended it to be. It's, there's nothing wrong, in my opinion, and this has been my stance from the beginning on the whole allowing gay and trans and non-binary couples adopting. This has been my position from the beginning. As long as you have two parents that love each other and they have stable incomes and, shown that they can absolutely... Of course, I know that, something may happen and they may lose a job or whatever, but overall, if they've shown that they can materially support a kid, why not? They should have the exact same rights to adopt kids as cis straight couples do. I mean, so what? It doesn't matter to me whether anybody in the LGBTQ plus community adopts a kid. It doesn't matter to me. They can do whatever they want to do in terms of adopting a kid. It doesn't bother me in the least, and I don't see it as, destroying the nuclear family or trying to undermine Western civilization or whatever, because I don't even know. I still have yet to hear one cogent, coherent definition of what Western civilization even means, because there are so many aspects of so-called Western civilization that have come from other places other than so-called... my camera froze again. But anyway... I'll try to improve these glitches from now on. But for the last couple seconds here, there are so many other places that so-called Western civilization has gotten cultural influences from and societal influences from, other than the West, so... It's a totally meaningless term. And as I think Vosh said, the term Western civilization is almost entirely dismissed in any academic setting. It's a completely meaningless term that's just universally dismissed in any academic setting. So, but anyway, the main point of this video is that this whole Meghan Markle thing has just exposed that conservatives overall are just they just love monarchy. Like overall, I shouldn't make broad statements, but overall, conservatives just love monarchy. That's just the way it is. And they'll defend it, um, despite claiming to love freedom and liberty. They'll also defend things like monarchy and tradition and hierarchy whenever it's perceived to be under threat. So, anyway, that's pretty much all I have to say on that topic, and I will see you guys next time.